I'm Brendan Gulick. Welcome to Buckeye Breakdown. Okay, let's shift to, Michigan and Iowa and Penn State. Obviously, they've all gotten off to good starts. They've all looked a little bit different in the way they've gone about their solid starts to the season. Of those three, I think Iowa is the most for real. I don't think they're unbeatable by any stretch, but I've been really impressed with them, especially the way they cause turnovers. There's some weird stat out there. Like if you look back since 2017, Iowa's defense has caused more turnovers than any other Power 5 team in that stretch. And it's actually not that close. And then obviously what they just did to Maryland this past weekend further punctuates that. I'm not an X's and O's guy. That's why I try to bring other guys on that know that stuff like the back of their hand. But I know an aggressive defense when I see it, and I like what I see from Iowa this year. Penn State, I think, is a good team that had a crappy year last year, and I expected them to rebound. Are they a legit college football playoff contending team? I mean, I guess by the record and who they've beaten so far, you have to say yes. They beat Auburn at home, so that's got to count for something. They just whooped Indiana, so that's got to count for something. But I'm not ready to crown, Penn State by any stretch. And this is not a hate on Michigan fest, okay? That's not my style. But I don't believe in the Wolverines yet. I think they have a much better defense. Their defense is absolutely taking a step forward this year. I can't get behind them yet offensively. They beat the crap out of Western Michigan and Northern Illinois. I don't care. They smoked Washington, who lost the week before to Montana, who's an FCS program. That win doesn't matter much to me. They snuck past Wisconsin. Like I think I know what the score said. I think Michigan was gifted 2 touchdowns against a Wisconsin offense that is atrocious. Wisconsin's defense is pretty good. Wisconsin's offense is horrendous. Michigan is a better football team than they were last year. They are a competent football team that has decent quarterback play that can run the ball effectively. I am not that worried about them yet as a Buckeye fan. I'm just not.
Yeah, I think I agree on all counts with Michigan. I think Penn State's probably the most dangerous because of Sean Clifford and his passing ability. And I really like their defense. I think their defensive line is underrated. You wonder a little bit about Penn State's ability to maybe grind out close games. Their running game is not super great. I think if you look at like that trio of coaches, Kirk Ferentz, James Franklin, Jim Harbaugh, I think I don't love any of them, if I'm being honest, but I think probably James Franklin is maybe the guy I would trust the most out of that group, which is maybe saying something.
I know you have a James Franklin love affair too.
Yeah, and I think if he was sitting right here with us, I think we could talk about that. And I covered Penn State for 2 years, and if you've watched us before, like you've heard, some of my opinions on that athletic department and how some of that is run. But the guy can still recruit his face off. And say what you will about some of the in-game stuff and how dependent they are, essentially how dependent they are success-wise on the competency of their coordinators. But their OC is pretty darn good. And it's a guy that we've seen come through Columbus and do some nice things. So I think they're probably the most dangerous. I will never trust Iowa until proven otherwise. We're working on about 15 years of experience there. I've referenced it before, but I still will always refer to Kirk Ferentz as DB Cooper. And if you know who DB Cooper is, that's funny. And I don't trust them for a single second, not one bit. And I've said in the past, if you've read our game predictions, that Notre Dame are the biggest posers in college football. They're the biggest imposters in college football. If you're making like an NCAA tournament style like seeding of big college football imposters, Notre Dame's the number 1 overall seed. You know who else is in the other 4 or the other 3? Iowa is an absolute lock for a 1 seed as imposter in college football. They've done nothing, absolutely nothing, and when it actually mattered. But that being said, if they maintain what they're doing, make the Big Ten championship game, and then beat whoever they're playing, which is probably going to be Ohio State, they deserve to go to the college football playoff. Sure. That won't happen, but like that's real. But I definitely think Penn State's dangerous. I think if this was an even year where Ohio State had to go to Beaver Stadium and play in a whiteout, you'd be really looking at that game going like, oh man, if you're an Ohio State fan. But the fact that game will be at the Shoe, I think is a massive win for Ohio State as far as kind of shifting the balance before the ball even gets kicked. Yeah, I don't trust Michigan. I'll never trust Iowa, and I think Penn State's dangerous. So yeah, that's probably where I stand among those 2 teams. The other one, and I think we have to talk about them because the turnaround that they've made is such an unbelievable 180 that I don't think he's getting enough credit, and that's Sparty.
Yep.
And the physicality that they're playing with under Mel Tucker feels different. And some of the ways they've been able to win, talking different games, winning different ways, is good. And that is only good for the Big Ten going forward. That's a massive game for Ohio State because that will probably be a top 10 game coming up here a little bit later. I'm going to say in maybe like a month or a little bit under a month.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's some big opponents and situations sitting in front of Ohio State that I think is huge opportunities for them to really showcase kind of some of the development and growth and changes that they've made.